CrawlerMod low bridge assembly instructions, all parts labeled LB. Now the low bridge also includes some boxes. We're going to skip those in this assembly, and you can refer to the box assembly video for those. So parts starting out with LB1, LB2, LB3, LB4, LB5, LB6, and LB7. So we're going to start out with LB1 as a base. I'm going to put the nicer side down and then start with LB2, LB5, and LB4, and LB3. So I'm actually going to take the 4s, do a dab of glue on this section here, and I'm going to put them into LB3. We're going to create this structure here, LB3. I'm going to hit it with glue wherever it makes contact. Here and here. LB3 will sit down into the slots there. And then I am going to go ahead and make sure the nicer side is facing outwards on the LB1, and I'm going to add glue on the outer parts here. And I'm going to add glue on the inside of LB3. Optionally, you can also add a little bit of glue here as well. I'm going to take this structure, flip it, and attach it down here, wipe away any drips, and then I'm going to take LB2 and add a little glue here just to help, like so, and that for a later step. And we're going to slot that in as well. Okay, and we're going to repeat the steps for the other side as well. So again, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to this time glue here and attach 2 of my LB4s to my 3. And take my LB5, add glue here by the dots and on the opposite sides of the slots. And I'm going to take the long edge and the dots and drop this in here. Okay, I'm then going to take a little bit of glue on this side here and glue on my LB1 where the angle is. And then drop this into place on the other side. I'm going to follow that up with glue on the dots here. The tabs just for be a little bit extra. So on the other side of the dots and the tabs where I'm going to make contact with LB1, and I'm going to line up the dots with the 2 tabs on the top. Okay. And at this point I have LB6, which is the bottom, which will slide in here, and LB7 on the top. So on these, I'm going to just hit all of the outer portions. And this is all on the inside, so you don't have to do a pretty job. I'll hit these tabs just to be safe. Drop that in. And do the same for LB7 on top. So again, glue on the outer part of the tabs, slide this into place, and before the next LB1 comes in, it's easy to knock these over. You can just reposition them as they're ready. So I'm going to take my final LB1, hit all the outer tabs where we're going to make wood-to-wood contact. Slot this into place. And now we have one of the bridge pieces ready. So we're going to set this aside to dry. If you have any humidity that is causing any warping in the wood, it can be helpful to take a little bit of a low adhesive tape and do a quick wrap around it just to keep it tight as it dries. I'm going to go ahead and do that because I'm using a low tack, long set time glue. So I'm just going to run around here just to make sure everything dries trued up. As I move it to the side, I don't want to bump it out of place. One there, one there. It's not truly necessary, but can make assembly a little bit easier. So I'm using low tack sports tape. And that's just gonna keep everything tight as it cures without having to over clamp anything. And it's super easy to remove. But any tape will do. Electrical tape is great for this too. So we're just going to set that aside to dry. Continue on with our next one. So again, LB1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. So I'm going to take my 4s into my 3. Go a little faster this time. And hit glue on the side of the 2 dots and the slots. Set this in. Okay. Glue the inside of 3. My tabs where I'm dropping this in place. Set into LB1. Then I am going to glue my tabs up here and the bottom parts here and top parts here, one of which I forgot earlier. And slide this back into place. Line up my dots and set that there. Continuing on with the other side, glue, glue, glue on the dots, glue on the other side of the dashes. 4 into 3. Drop this structure onto 5, aligning into the holes in the slots. I'm going to glue the outer parts of LB1 and glue this side of LB3. Drop that into place. Hit my dashes on the next LB2. And then line this up. Sometimes it's easier to get the 2 holes in first and then adjust it on. So once that's set, we're going to continue with LB6, just hitting all the long parts. And for good measure, we're going to hit here. And I did neglect the LB3s on the last one I built, but not 100% crucial, but it helps. So LB6 and same for LB7. Okay, and once I have glue on all the outer sections here, I'm going to align this, working on these 2 pieces first because they don't have anything structural holding them in place except for the tack of the glue, and working out towards the sides. And this one is sitting 100% true. So I am just going to wipe off the excess and set this aside to dry with the other one. Okay, so CrawlerMod low bridge sheet 2 of 2, parts LB8 through LB13, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm going to start out with 8 and add glue to all the sides of the tab, and then we're going to drop in 9 right here. Then we need to have 10 sit in so that these tabs are facing upwards. So this is all internal, so dab of glue there, there, and there. And it is also helpful to add glue to the layer of side of 10 that sits into 8. So we're going to add glue here on 10 on the flat part that makes contact with 8. And the taller portion goes to the outer part. Just try to let these sit as parallel as you can. Okay, now we're going to turn this around, and there's a slot in the front. Now next step is to grab piece 11 and get glue on all the slots here, as it's going to slide in sideways to 10, and this part on 10 actually makes contact with 11, so for a little extra strength I'm just going to add some glue to the top here, and then slide this all the way in. And then I'm going to follow up with 12. So 12 will actually sit with these 2 tabs here on the top side. So I'm going to go on to 1, and a little easier to do it on this piece. You can glue 12, but 1 I'm going to add glue to this layer here, and the front faces of the recessed sections. And then I am going to flip this up with these tabs, meeting 8, and rotate that into place. So wipe off the excess glue. So that's sitting on the front. That's the side view. And final step is to add a little bit of glue onto the sides here where 13 is going to join, and glue here, and glue here where the tab is sticking out. And we are going to take our 13 and rotate it in and seat it into the slot there. Wipe away any excess glue and do the same for the other side. And then we have this structure here. We're going to let that dry before we continue gluing up the rest of the low bridge. I'm going to do one more of those. So again, we're going to take 8, get the nicer side facing down. So glue on either side of the slots, drop 10 in, then, or sorry, 9 in. Then we are going to add 10 in this orientation. So glue in the slots, 1, 2, 3, 4, and glue on the side of 10 where it meets 8. Again, the flat spot here. And we're going to turn this around and go to part 11. Drop glue onto 9. And then on 11, we are going to add glue to the slots here. And then slide this in to the 10s. Okay. So on to 12. Again, you can glue 12 up here. I still think it's a little easier to glue this structure. So I'm going to glue the upper part of 8, and then any of the recessed surfaces that are going to sit in with piece 12. And I'm going to slide 12 in, rotate up, and align with the slots. Wipe off any excess. And then move on to 13, where I am going to, again, glue the parts of 8 where 13 will make contact, and then glue the sides here and this protruding tab. And then we are going to set this side to dry before we continue on to the next step. Final assembly of the low bridge. We have the pieces that we completed from sheet 1 of 2 and the pieces that we completed of sheet 2 of 2. These should be all dry before you attempt this step. For the sake of this video, I am going to do them not dry, which I don't recommend. It's helpful to get the orientation with 2 existing hexes from the system. So, and there are options in terms of width. So if you have a narrow wheelbase, you can space them in and adjust them. I have wider wheelbase vehicles, so I'm going to be using the outer spacing here. So I am going to first get my glue in this section here. Where the tabs are going to touch. I'm going to sit this into the hex for support, and then I am going to follow up with glue on this surface and this surface here, and slide this in. So it sits like that. Then I'm going to slide the next section in after I glue these 2 surfaces. And we're going to slide into here. And I'm going to move this whole structure over. Do the same for this side. So dab of glue where I am putting the slots. So I'm doing the outer, so I'm going here and here. For a SEX 24 with a narrow wheelbase, you may want to slide one inwards and offset everything. So I'm going to drop this in, and this is a little harder here because I can't pick it up anymore, but I'm going to glue the surfaces that are going to join in. Slide this piece in, and I'm going to rotate it a little bit. So I have a little more of an angle on what's going on here, and slowly work in this side first. It's easier to see up close, but I'm trying to keep my head out of the shot. And then work into this side here, and then just get everything slid in together so it remains relatively tight, and then we have the final assembly. So it's helpful to let it dry in this position so that everything remains tight from this surface to this, with a little bit of tension on it. Just give it a little bit of push on both sides and let it sit till it cures, and should be good to go. When it is fully dry, you can lift up vertically and remove from the hexes. So as a final example, this is a completed piece that I glued up and painted earlier. So if you just go down vertically into your hexes, it will slot directly in.